victorious on Sunday afternoon, 13-6 over the Buffalo Bills. Here to talk all things Bills. He is one of the beat writers that follows the team. Was in Baltimore on Sunday afternoon for New York Upstate. He is Matthew Fairburn. You can follow his journey at NewYorkUpstate.com or at Matthew Fairburn. That's Fairburn out on Twitter. Rough afternoon for the Bills on Sunday, I'd say, Matt, and certainly not going to get any easier. They play football again on Thursday. A little wacky for them this week.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround. They have to put this one behind them very quickly because they had to back home for their home opener in front of what should be a wild crowd to play the New York Jets, a division opponent, another conference opponent, and they can't afford to go 0-2 in the conference. They really can't, and especially if this team wants to be a playoff team and wants to build some confidence. I mean, this schedule gets tough. It's New York on Thursday, Arizona the week after that, New England the week after that, and then a trip to Los Angeles the week after that. So things don't get any easier for the Bills, certainly not.
Oh, okay, assess Tyrod. I mean, you've seen him for a year. Most Ravens fans may have seen him play a Monday or a Thursday night game last year or seen some of the highlights of him running around, even in the Pro Bowl. We like Tyrod here. Just haven't really seen 4 quarters of what it would look like to stop him. Certainly the pinball effort of him being very, very elusive, even on the tackle. He's a stout individual and really has great balance to stay up as well. We saw that on the big play. But by and large, I think that offensive line looks leaky, and I don't know if it's going to get any better soon.
Yeah, Cordy Glenn went down today, and that didn't help the offensive line at all. And quite frankly, when you look at the body of work, the 4 quarters, that might be the worst game Tyrod Taylor has played as the Bills' starting quarterback over the last 2 years. He did not look great. You can blame the protection. You can say the Ravens' defense played great because they did. However, Tyrod Taylor was still dinking and dunking. He wasn't taking shots down the field. He wasn't attacking the middle of the defense. And let's face it, some of the Ravens said after the game, Brandon Williams, defensive tackle for the Ravens, said, our game plan was to make Tyrod Taylor be a quarterback. That tells you something. If the Ravens are game planning you to keep you in the pocket and make you beat them with your arm, you have to be able to do it. And Tyrod Taylor failed the test. Eric Weddle said after the game, he said, we basically took away the deep zones and forced them to beat us another way. He didn't have another way to beat them. They didn't let him run, and they didn't let him throw the ball deep. He didn't even try to throw the ball deep.
And he didn't try to run very much either. Even when given the opportunity, it's not like he was really looking to tuck the ball. It looked like he was still looking to get rid of the ball.
Yeah, he was pretty hesitant to run. I think they took it away from him quite a bit, but you're right. Even when it was there, it was almost like it was a concerted effort for him not to run. And let's face it, he was doing a lot of thinking, it felt like, out there, didn't it? I mean, he was out there and he was checking down. He wasn't taking the risks. He wasn't running. It was a very calculated Tyrod Taylor, which, like you mentioned at the top, that's not Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is an exciting playmaker. I mean, look at the best plays Tyrod Taylor made on Sunday. They're the plays where things broke down. That play to Charles Clay where he broke the tackle and just started scrambling and found Charles Clay down the field. That's Tyrod Taylor at his best. At broken plays when he's not thinking so much. And it seemed like he was overthinking things, whether it was trying not to run or trying not to throw the ball down the field or trying to make the safe play. To me, what's so exciting about him is not knowing what he's going to do on any given moment. And too often, he was predictable on Sunday.
Well, the improvisational part of it, the Ravens are very, very familiar with that from practices and him being around as much as he's been around and running around out there, quite frankly, with a bunch of 3rd and 4th stringers. Most of the time, when he ran around in a Ravens uniform, he was never out there with the first team. And I guess for the offensive line to lose a left tackle early, this is a little bit foreboding for them, right? I mean, last year was the defense in general. Defense played well enough against the Ravens, certainly, held them to the field goals late in the game when they needed to. But really, for the offensive line, I felt like the Ravens defense really shoved them around kind of early. I mean, that first quarter, only 2 yards of offense at one point. Third quarter, it felt the other way, like there was some things they were doing were starting to work, including Shady in space. I mean, he's really an electrifying player when given some space. The Ravens didn't give him much space. Matter of fact, they ate him up in the backfield a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens were pushing the Bills around up front. There's no question about that. I mean, from start to finish, I think they had the advantage in the trenches, and that kind of made the difference in the game, really. I mean, the Bills weren't able to get anything going on Sunday, and it's because they weren't able to get any push up front. And, you can say Cordy Glenn leaving, the game with the ankle injury was a big cause of that. But let's face it, he was in there for a good part of the first half. And there's other offensive linemen on this team. I mean, there's just, you can't point to too many excuses when you get beat that badly up front, especially when you're a team, by the way, that led the league in rushing a year ago and sort of prides itself on the offensive line, brought back all 5 starters on that offensive line. They had to be better, and quite frankly, they weren't good enough.
For the defense to step up a little bit, it really struggles last year all the way around. I don't know that Rex is going to look at the defensive tape and hate it this week.
No, he'll like it, and he said on Sunday, he said, he wasn't, very excited about it, but that's only because the Bills lost. And Rex Ryan isn't one to take moral victories, but I'll tell you what, he's gotten a ton of heat for his defense. So he's going to take this and he's going to use it. He already said on Sunday after the game, he said, we're going to be a lot better. And this was the start of that. He can't resist bragging about that defense. And the performance they put together on Sunday is one worth bragging about, really. Other than that big play where Mike Wallace beat Duke Williams, which Duke Williams should not be covering Mike Wallace to begin with, and Rex Ryan took blame for that. Other than that,
Mike Wallace pointed that after the game too, by the way.
Yeah,
he said you shouldn't put a safety on me.
Yeah, quite. Mike Wallace said you shouldn't put a safety on him. Any safety, especially not Duke Williams, the Bills' third safety. He should not have been covering him. Definitely not one-on-one. But other than that play and a few costly penalties here and there, and the fact that they weren't able to stop the Ravens on that last drive. I mean, they gave the offense every chance to win that game on Sunday. And the fact that they played that well is definitely something they can build on going forward. Like we said, they got a tough stretch of games coming up.
He is Matthew Fairburn. He covers all things Buffalo Bills as the beat writer at New York Upstate. You can follow Matt on Twitter at New York Upstate or via his name. That's Matthew Fairburn. That's Fairburn, as well up in Orchard Park, New York. It is fascinating, and I've talked to a couple folks about this, the kickers being such a huge part of the game. I mean, we lost a bunch of games by field goals last year. Tucker, obviously, with a big contract and a big leg, made 3 field goals, credited with 2. They took 1 off the board at one point. Making 50-yard field goals sort of look automatic, and we've seen that for a number of years here by Tucker, and that's why he got the most money ever given to a kicker in one of these contracts. But then on the other side, you see the Bills kicker go wide right, and I know, I tweeted out wide right when Carpenter missed that kick. A little Scott Norwood reference there that no one in Western New York will like me for. But, the game's closer than that, and really, a missed field goal on a 50-yarder on our side, and maybe one on your side, it's 10-10 and we're still playing. It really is fascinating that after these 3-point and 6-point games, you go back to a kick one way or another.
Yeah, that's so often the case in the NFL. I mean, how many games on Sunday were decided by 1 score or 2 scores or something
late
like
field
that.
goals, crazy late field goals.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of league this is. This isn't, a blowout league. There's a lot of parity, and games are very close, and kicking is an important part of the game as much as people make light of it. And, Dan Carpenter misses that 49-yard field goal on Sunday, and yes, 49 yards is a tough field goal, but he has to make that kick. Last year he was not good enough as the kicker. Rex Ryan made point of that time and time again. He had a great training camp, a great preseason, but if he keeps missing kicks like that, the Bills should kick the tires on other options, no pun intended. I mean, like you said, Justin Tucker was money today, or on Sunday. He was money. And you know what? He's always money, and that makes a difference. Some of these great teams that have great kickers, when the kicks matter, they make the kicks. Dan Carpenter didn't do that on Sunday, and that's why, part of the reason why the Bills are 0-1, because that could have changed the game if he makes that kick. It's an entirely different game, and that hurts. Like I said, kicking, huge part of the game.
Sammy Watkins needs to be a bigger part of their offense for sure. Heard a lot about him during the week. I know it's been tough getting him onto the field. Really not a lot of shots, and certainly not a lot of deep shots that I'm sure when they go back and evaluate this, Greg Roman's not going to like that part of the game plan much.
No, they need to get him more involved, absolutely. I think that's obvious. That was obvious last year when, Sammy Watkins got off to a slow start. You look at Sammy Watkins' last 6 games or so. I mean, he was dominant, and they were feeding him the ball, and he had some incredible games. And he really is, if you look at the numbers, one of the best deep ball receivers in the NFL. The Bills connected on 2 passes of 10 yards or more on Sunday, 1 pass of 20 yards or more. That can't happen. They need to force the ball to Sammy Watkins a lot more than they did. 6 targets, 4 catches, 43 yards. It's not enough. It really isn't. And Sammy Watkins wouldn't even talk to the media after the game on Sunday. He was upset. We'll get a chance to talk to him at some point this week, but it's obvious that he needs to be a bigger part of this offense. There's no doubt about that.
Matt, concerned? Short week, Jets, very emotional game. Obviously, left tackle situation not good. I would think that for one of these franchises, 0-2 is going to be there on Friday morning for them.
Yeah, that's where they're at this point. The Bills are 0-1, and the Jets are 0-1. So somebody's going to be 0-2 on Friday, and the Bills really don't want it to be them, obviously. I mean, with everything that they sort of have been expecting this year, trying to prove people wrong and go out and show everybody and end that 16-year playoff drought, to start 0-2 would be absolutely devastating. Like I said, the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Rams are on the schedule back-to-back in the weeks that follow the Jets. So they can't afford to lose on this short week in front of their home crowd. This crowd will be jacked up. I promise you that. People are going to be tailgating probably as soon as they wake up. I mean, it is going to be a wild atmosphere on Thursday night. The Bills don't get many home primetime games. They really need to make the most of this. And, the fans deserve it more than anybody because they've had to deal with this team for far too long. This is an absolutely huge game for them in week 2.
Well, and certainly here, winning an opener feels nice. We don't do that often. We've had the indignity of having to open in Denver a couple of times the last couple of years, even after we won a championship here. We play in Cleveland and then in Jacksonville next couple of weeks. Feels like a nice, cushy start to the beginning of the Ravens season, and certainly they're going to need some time. I mean, there was a lot of confusion on the offense. Flacco pointed that out. He hadn't been out there with Perryman and Pitta and Smith at all. I mean, those guys were sort of thrown out there and sort of know the offense, but different lineups, different cadence, different things, Flacco moving guys around. And by and large, I thought the running game could have been better from the Ravens standpoint. I felt like there was a lot of penetration from the front 7 of the Bills, and I know Rex has done so much even through the draft, and, he's not going to get Ragland on the field. He's not going to get Shaq Lawson on the field. At some point, Darius will come back. But they had more pressure on Flacco, and I saw Flacco, get hit more often than we're used to seeing Joe Flacco get hit, and get harassed probably a little bit more than we're used to seeing him get harassed.
Yeah, I mean, Rex Ryan's defense isn't what it used to be, and it certainly wasn't what it used to be last year. However, today it looked like they might have turned a page. And like you said, they're shorthanded. No Ragland, no Shaq Lawson, no Marcel Darius. But they came up and they showed up on Sunday. They really did. And that front 7 especially, I know the Ravens' offensive line was banged up as well, but the Bills played well. I thought defensively they put together a good plan and they executed it. It's unfortunate for them that the offense didn't pick up their end of the bargain.
He is Matthew Fairburn. He covers all things Buffalo Bills as the beat writer for New York Upstate up in Orchard Park. He's got football on Thursday night. By and large for you, Matt, the Ravens, not the most impressive effort, but we were 5-11 last year. No one knew what to expect, and certainly seeing this many receivers get the ball, maybe, we've talked about maybe to the detriment. 10 different guys caught passes on the Ravens side. 5 different people, including Flacco, ran the football on Sunday afternoon. It was certainly a varied effort, and I think the Ravens had something to build on off of a victory where, nothing went particularly great other than the Wallace pass, but nothing really went wrong either.
Yeah, I was fairly impressed by the way the Ravens won that game on Sunday. And I guess it's from the standpoint that that's an ugly game that they played. Both teams really played an ugly game. But the Ravens did the little things to get the win. They were the better coached team, I thought, on Sunday. They didn't commit nearly as many penalties. They kept their cool, and they made the kicks. I mean, some of that seems like simple stuff. And like you said, it's not a performance that's going to turn heads around the league, and everybody's going to say that Joe Flacco's on his way to winning the MVP. Nobody's going to say that after the way he played on Sunday. But I think it's something to build on, especially after having so many guys coming back from injury and stuff. I thought it was one of those performances. That's a playoff team type of performance. That's a team that's been there and won before, going out and taking care of business in a close game. And that was the difference, I think. The Bills haven't been there. They haven't done it. They haven't been to the playoffs in 16 years. Rex Ryan hasn't been to the playoffs since 2009, or since 2010. So, that to me it was the big difference. And like I said, maybe it's not the best performance the Ravens have ever put together, but it got the job done, and it's certainly something to build on.
Matthew Fairburn covering all things Buffalo Bills for the New York Upstate. You can also follow him out on Twitter at Matthew Fairburn. That's Fairburn. Last thing, nervous for the Bills at this point? I mean, certainly not the effort they wanted to have, but it wasn't hideous, and there weren't any major gaffes. I mean, I guess it's real easy for Rex the next couple of days to say one ball went over our head. If not for that, we win the football game.
Yeah, I think it's fair to be nervous about the Buffalo Bills at this point. I mean, I picked them to go 7-9. I picked them to lose the game on Sunday, but I also picked them to bounce back and win on Thursday because, things happen quickly in the NFL. You have to turn the page quickly. I think the Bills realized that last year. They were able to get back up for some games and win games that maybe, when their backs were against the wall and things like that. So there's definitely reason to be nervous about the Bills in the sense that they didn't look great. And some of these problems aren't quick fixes. The offensive line needs to be better. Tyrod Taylor needs to be better. LaShawn McCoy fought his ass off on Sunday, but he had no room to run. These are things that, like I said, they're not necessarily quick fixes, and that's what gives you pause. But I think they have the ability to bounce back on Thursday night, so we'll see what happens.
Hey, man, rest up. You got football on Thursday. We have a beautiful trip to the land of Cleve on Sunday, so it's always a great week here, and we'll see if RG3's got his shoulder together and all that good stuff. It was great having the Bills in, man. We have so many friends on that team. I mean, I saw James Trapp after the game, obviously with the whole defensive core and Rex and Tyrod and even Corey Graham. There was a lot of purple blood coming to Baltimore on Sunday.
There certainly was. It meant a lot to a lot of guys on the Bills sideline, and I know there's a lot of guys on that team flight back home on Sunday night that were a little bit let down because of, the way this one went. Tyrod Taylor, Corey Graham, like you've said, a lot of guys on the Bills coaching staff, they wanted one. They wanted to get back at the Ravens, and they weren't able to do it.
Hey, man, our paths will cross again, I'm sure, soon. I really appreciate the time and the visit. Thanks for coming on with us, Matt.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon.
He is Matthew Fairburn. He is at New York Upstate. That's also the Twitter home, as well as NewYorkUpstate.com. He does cover the Buffalo Bills. Thousands do follow him out on Twitter at Matthew Fairburn. That's Fairburn. You can find us at WNST out on Twitter. I am Nestor Aparicio on Twitter, as well as LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook Live, where we stream after the games. And I appreciate many of you checking us out on our Facebook Live, as well as subscribing on YouTube via our WNS TV channel, streaming live all week. Anything amiss you can find in the bio Toyota Audio Vault at WNST.net. Just got word that Eric Weddle is going to be joining us for a swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry and for There Goes My Hero next week. I'll get you some details on that out on social media later in the week. And of course, each and every morning, our morning newspaper shows up via your email inbox digitally and free of charge and powered up by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in great shape at Planet Fitness. And hey, the holidays are coming. You're going to be eating a lot. I got pumpkin everything and eggnog on the brain. Not to mention chicken wings at Buffalo Wild Wings every Monday night, where we're jamming with our best seat in the house and our wing eating competition at halftime. So I'm at Planet Fitness making it work. Last but not least, any breaking news that happens this week with the Orioles, the Ravens, comes to you first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home, getting you ready for the Jets and the Bills on Thursday night. And, of course, we got the Orioles in Boston the next couple days. We'll be monitoring all of that on all of our social channels, as well as talking to some folks up in Boston about the pennant race. Now 9 teams deep in the American League. Pretty good stuff going on. Good weekend for the Birds in Detroit as well. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me anytime, anywhere. I'm a very available individual. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.